In this video, we're going to go over a huge fault that live and natural bait has that nobody's talking about. A lot of people are under the impression that live bait is always going to outfish artificial, but that's not necessarily the case. Hey, what's up everybody, this is Pat from Salt Strong, and I want to set up the situation. The other day I was going out to film a video, and the video was going to be about using cut bait versus a synthetic bait. In this case, I was using cut mullet, and I was going to put that against a synthetic, which is going to be the fish bites. If you're not familiar with what fish bites are a man-made bait that's supposed to mimic cut bait. It's really popular in the surf side of things. A lot of surf anglers use this, and there's another brand called Fish Gum, but I wanted to see if it's a viable option compared to cut mullet. A lot of people might not want to deal with cut bait. It can be stinky, it can slow you down, you have to go buy it. It's something that you've got to deal with on top of it. So if there was a viable option, this might be better. So that was what I was going to do, is I was going to go out there and compare the two. So I pulled up the Smart Fishing spots I had to do my pre-trip planning. I'm looking at the wind, I'm looking at the weather, and I selected a spot that I had known has been holding fish recently. So that morning I decided to load up the kayak, I went to the spot, and I was going to get set up. So one of my rods, I was going to have the cut mullet on there. The other rod, I was going to have the fish bites, and the idea was to see if one was going to get more bites or catch more fish than the other, and alternate them back and forth and try different spots to make sure that it wasn't an anomaly. So just try different things. When I got to the spot, I went ahead and set everything up. I casted everything out there, and I waited, and there was nothing. Nothing was really happening. So reeled the lines back in, scooted up a little bit further, cast them back out, waited another 20-30 minutes right around there. Nothing happened. So repositioned, tried it again. Absolutely nothing. Nothing was going on. No bites, no nibbles, no nothing. Just there was no fish there. So I decided to move spots. Went to another spot that I know that's been holding fish and repeated the same process. Nothing has happened. And then it dawned on me. There's something that has changed. There's a situation that was different from the last time I was there to this day. And that was we got a lot of rain. So the water has risen. The water has gotten murkier. So with higher water levels, that means these fish are going to spread out a little bit more. And that's the issue with live bait, is live bait is not good as a search bait. Live bait excels. And I'm going to use the live bait with natural bait, the cut bait, all together in the same realm. So when I say live bait, natural bait, I'm talking about the same thing. But it works great whenever you know where the fish are. If you run into a situation where you've had a change and these fish start to scatter a little bit, live bait is hard to find those fish. And that's where artificial lures excel. They're excellent search baits. So what was happening was I was going to spots that were traditionally holding fish the past couple of weeks, and now that conditions have changed, they're no longer there. So I could take my cut bait and I can go here, I can go there, I can bounce around and try to find things, but the problem is you have to sit there and wait in order for the fish to find the bait. So you're wasting a lot of time. With artificial lures, you're working the area effectively and going through. You're power fishing, covering a lot of different ground, and this way you can pattern those fish out, find out the types of areas that they're holding in, and then duplicate those areas and start hitting that. That's where artificial lures will outfish live bait. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Professional guides out there almost always use live bait unless the customer wants to use artificial. It's almost always live bait. Now, the reason why they're doing that and the reason why it works for them is because they are on the water every single day, or most days they're on the water. They know where the fish are at. So they can go to these spots knowing where the fish are, using that live bait, and it's easier to catch them. There's an old adage that says it's easier to feed a fish than fool a fish, which basically means that you're giving them what they want with a live bait. They're already eating that, so it's easier to catch them than trying to convince them to eat a piece of wood or plastic or a piece of metal. But you have to know where the fish are for that live bait to work. Now, when you're dealing with a really experienced guy that knows the area well, when those changes happen, say that wind stops blowing or it starts blowing or you get a cold front that comes through, an experienced guide knows exactly where to go because they know the patterns of the fish in their area. So it doesn't bother them. They're still going to be able to use that live bait. But the weekend warrior, the person that's not out there all the time, that's not out on the water every single day, is going to be challenged whenever they're using that live bait because you're going to have to cover ground to figure out where these fish went and where they're going to. Now, going back to that day that I was fishing, because of the high water, the fish were spread out. I wasn't catching them back to back right on top of each other. It was one, then I would fish a little while, catch another one, then I'd fish a little while, catch another one. So soaking live bait or using cut bait in an area like this is not going to be productive because you're going to have to hit a bunch of different places and it takes time for the fish to find that bait. Whereas with the lure, I was able to cover a lot of ground and I was able able to save the day. Had I been using that cut bait the rest of the day, I doubt if I would have caught anything. Now, truth be told, when I was going to my spot, I was throwing artificial and I did catch a tarpon, and that's what really keyed me in on the fact that I needed to go back to artificials. So fishing that cut bait for over an hour and not getting any bites and seeing that the water was high, that gave me those clues that I need to go back to the artificial, and I wind up catching a really nice redfish, wind up catching some snook, and again, I saved the day making that change. So what I want you to take away from this is there's not one that's always going to be better than the other. Matter of fact, I think you should be proficient at either methods. I think there's 3 different types of anglers out there. There's going to be the first type that's going to be live bait only. They only want to fish live bait. And then you've got the second type, which is like me, I'm artificial only. I fish a lot of artificial lures. I don't fish natural baits all that often. But then there's also the people that are a combination of both. They're fishing artificial and natural whenever they feel the need. And I think these are the more well-rounded anglers. So when you run into a situation where they're just not hitting one over the other, you can adjust. Now there are growing pains when it comes to that. So just because you take an artificial angler only guy like myself and you give him live bait, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to catch more fish than I would with my artificial lures. It's a different style of fishing, so you need to learn how to do that. And any angler that has made that transition from live and natural bait to artificial, they know that it comes with a learning curve. So to the anglers that have gone through that have powered through that learning curve and become proficient with both, those are going to be the ones that are going to be more consistent, and they're going to be able to catch more fish on any of the trips that they go out there because they can pivot. Now for anybody that's making that transition, say you're going from live bait to artificial, we can definitely help you out at Salt Strong. We've got the technology, we got Smart Fishing Spots app, we also have a community of 63,000 people that can help you out, that can guide you along the way. We've got courses, we've got all kinds of information that can transition you from a live bait only, or maybe even an artificial only to live bait angler, to make you more rounded. So if you're interested in catching more fish and upping your game, when you're looking for those redfish, those snook, those trout, and those flounder, make sure and check us out at saltstrong.com, and we can definitely help you catch more fish in less time. And I'm going to give you a solid tip here. If you are one of those anglers that are trying to transition from live bait only to using some artificial lures, start with a paddletail. A 3.5 inch or a 4 inch paddletail will catch fish anywhere, and they're easy to use. There are lures that are going to work better in certain situations, but you have to learn how to work that lure, and there's some little nuances in there that can be difficult. With a paddletail, it's pretty much cast it out and reel it in. It's just that simple. So if you're looking to dip your toes in the artificial world, start with the paddletail. And if you're looking for a good one on this particular day, I caught everything on our Slam Shady 4-inch mulligan. That is a profile and a color that will catch fish anywhere, not just saltwater, catches fish in freshwater too. So check those out. That's at fishstrong.com. Now I know we got all different levels of anglers, from beginning to intermediate to advanced anglers that are watching these videos. I would love to hear from you. Are you an angler that has made that transition from live bait to artificial bait, and how did it go? What was that learning curve like? And also, are you the type of person that is just going to stick with what you have and you're happy with it? I'd love to hear from you. Put it down in the comments below. Now, as always, I hope you learned something from the video. I really do appreciate you watching, and I hope your next day out on the water is a great one. Bye.